When Allison Janney and Bradley Whitford reunited on the set of The Diplomat, it felt less like two actors returning to a project and more like two souls rediscovering a shared rhythm that time could never erase. For decades, their chemistry has defined television excellence, from the razor-sharp corridors of The West Wing to the quiet, emotional beats of their later collaborations. But this time, their reunion was different. It wasn't just nostalgia. It was electricity, reborn in a new setting, under new stakes, but with the same heartbeat that once made millions of viewers feel something profound. Bradley Whitford walked onto the set first, holding his familiar air of quiet intellect mixed with understated humor. He wasn't reprising Josh Lyman, but the echoes of that character, the sharp tongue, the restless energy, seemed to follow him like a ghost. And when Allison Janney arrived, the room reportedly shifted. The crew felt it immediately, even the cameras seemed to hum. Two icons of television, both weathered by time but polished by experience, were about to create something extraordinary once again. For Whitford, the moment was surreal. He later described it as stepping into a time machine powered by memory and muscle. For Janney, it was more emotional. "It was heaven," she said softly during an interview, the kind of line that lands not as a cliché but as a confession. Because heaven, for actors like her, isn't always applause or awards, it's finding someone who knows your rhythm so well that you don't even have to act anymore. You just exist. Their dynamic on The Diplomat is layered, sophisticated, and deeply human. Janney plays a seasoned political strategist who finds herself torn between ideals and survival, while Whitford portrays a veteran diplomat navigating the blurred lines between loyalty and ambition. It's not a reunion that leans on sentimentality. Instead, it's a masterclass in evolution, how two artists can grow individually and still fit perfectly when they meet again. On set, crew members described moments between takes where Janney and Whitford would slip effortlessly into the kind of quick, playful banter that once defined their West Wing days. "It was like watching old friends finish each other's thoughts," one crew member shared. "But with a kind of wisdom now, like they've lived through everything they used to only talk about on screen." What makes their reunion so powerful isn't just the nostalgia factor. It's the emotional gravity they bring to every exchange. In The Diplomat, their scenes are quiet storms, tension wrapped in tenderness, rivalry laced with respect. Watching them together again feels like watching two great dancers who never forgot the choreography, only deepened their understanding of the music. Whitford admitted that working with Janney again reminded me why I fell in love with acting. He spoke about how rare it is to find someone who challenges you to be better simply by being in the same room. "Allison doesn't just raise the bar," he said. "She is the bar." Janney, in turn, praised Whitford's meticulous craft. "Bradley listens, not just as an actor, but as a person. That's what makes every scene with him unpredictable. You never know where it's going to land, but it always lands in truth." Their on-screen reunion also serves as a quiet nod to their shared legacy. Both have spent years redefining what prestige television can be: intelligent, emotionally complex, and unafraid to tackle the moral gray areas that reflect real life. Together, they represent a bridge between eras of storytelling, the classic golden age of political drama and the modern wave of global intrigue that The Diplomat so perfectly embodies. Behind the scenes, the energy was infectious. Younger cast members reportedly watched in awe, calling the pair a masterclass in chemistry. One even said, "It was like watching living history perform in front of you." But for Janney and Whitford, it wasn't about legacy. It was about connection, the simple joy of finding a creative partner who still surprises you after all these years. Whitford described a moment during filming when he caught Janney in character, her eyes locked on his, silence stretching between them. "It felt like time stopped," he said. "You could hear every heartbeat, every breath. That's when I thought, this is what acting is supposed to feel like." The director of The Diplomat called their collaboration lightning in a bottle. He explained that the two didn't just deliver lines, they built emotional architecture. "You could feel the room tighten when they were together," he said. "There's history between them, and history you can't fake." Even the show's producers knew they were witnessing something special. One noted, "When Allison and Bradley share a frame, it's more than nostalgia. It's a reminder of what television used to be, before the algorithms, before the noise." It's two human beings telling the truth. Janney has always brought a warmth that disarms, a vulnerability that sneaks up on you. In The Diplomat, that warmth collides with Whitford's cerebral sharpness, creating sparks that illuminate the story's emotional core. There's a moment, near the end of the first episode, where they simply look at each other, no words, just silence, and somehow, that silence speaks louder than dialogue ever could. Off camera, the pair laughed about how natural it felt to fall back into rhythm. "We could do this forever," Janney joked. "As long as someone keeps writing smart dialogue." Whitford added, "Or even if they don't. We'll just improvise and call it genius." But beneath the humor was something deeper, gratitude. Gratitude for the years that shaped them, for the audiences that still care, and for the rare gift of finding art in friendship. Their reunion wasn't just about The Diplomat, it was about resilience. About two actors who've weathered the fickle winds of Hollywood and still stand tall, with respect for each other and for the craft that binds them. When asked how it felt to reunite after all this time, Whitford smiled. "It felt like home," he said simply. And maybe that's what heaven really meant for Allison Janney too, not perfection, not fame, but that fleeting, fragile sense of belonging. As the cameras rolled and the lights dimmed, the set became a cathedral of memory. Every glance, every gesture, carried years of shared history. And in that sacred space, two of television's finest reminded the world what it means to tell a story that matters, not because it's loud, but because it's true. Their reunion may have been framed as an episode of The Diplomat, but for millions of fans, it was a love letter to the golden age of character-driven television, to partnership, and to the enduring power of connection. In the end, Allison Janney and Bradley Whitford didn't just act together again. They reignited something the industry had been missing: authenticity. The kind of authenticity that makes an audience lean closer, hold its breath, and remember why they fell in love with storytelling in the first place. And when the final cut wrapped, the applause wasn't just for the scene. It was for the journey. For the two artists who, after all these years, still know how to make magic, and call it heaven.